Welcome to the 5. Today is August 11th, and here's the 5 things you need to know today. Updates with COVID and schools. And how much should businesses be involved in COVID vaccinations? Is the internet a true utility? NBC has the lowest Olympic ratings ever. And how much money do Olympians owe when they get back to the States? Joining me today, as always, on my right is Ben. Let's get started. First of these, so COVID in school. So you're probably, no matter where you stand on how real it is, you're aware that COVID exists and the Delta variant, and school has started for some, and for the rest is starting soon. So there's a lot of strange things. We live in a strange time in a large country where some states are saying, like Illinois where we're at, you have to wear masks. Some places like Florida, you got Ron DeSantis, the governor, saying it's against his executive order to have a mask mandate in any Florida school. And to add to the craziness of that, he's also said that for superintendents and school board members that want to do mask mandates, they will try to withhold the pay of those people from the state for trying to go against the executive order, which adds an extra craziness of that.
Yeah.
That's why there's only one good thing in Florida, Disney World. I will go on record saying that. And maybe the beaches.
Yeah, imagine getting penalized for trying to keep people safe.
It's
Like,
crazy.
remember,
It's crazy.
Kids 12 and under are not vaccinated.
Yeah.
They can't even be vaccinated. Who knows when that will happen? They are still very much at risk, if not even more risk than ever before, because even back before everyone was vaccinated, at least there was closures, there was people staying at home, social distancing, masks was mandatory everywhere, schools were closed. Now all that has gone away. It's like we're trying to get back to normal, but we forgot that, oh wait, 12 and under are not vaccinated yet, and they are still they're at risk of getting infected, and if not, maybe something more severe, which is kind of scary because you got people out running their normal lives, and that stuff is going to go in and out of schools like no one's business. I would not be surprised if we see some school closures this year, because that just might get out of control.
Yeah, I wonder, it wouldn't surprise me a tremendous amount to see school closures, but I think that one of the main reasons that schools had actually closed last year, like where my kids were at, was like switched all virtual for a few weeks, or it was like a week, was because they had too many teachers out from quarantine. A couple infections, but mostly quarantines.
Yes.
And with most, or at least with teachers being able to be vaccinated, I think school closures in general will be averted. You might have some smaller classrooms for a while, but as the close contact rules have evolved, that will be fewer quarantines. But it is crazy because the Delta variant. Now to gain context, it is true that not that many. A very small percentage of children end up with serious complications or, heaven forbid, death from COVID. It is rare, but Delta is the worst it's been, and it does happen.
Right.
So they say it's like a 1 in 50. So here's was a recent study by Johns Hopkins, I think, or something recently, and they said that there was about a 1 in 50 chance of a child ending up in a hospital situation for the latest Delta variant, which is higher than anybody wants, not astronomical.
Yeah.
And about a 0.02% chance of death, which is horrible if you're that unfortunate family. Yeah. But it is true that it is still unlikely. But of course, if 1 million people get something, I can't do the math in my head, but it was at 200, I think. I'm not sure, but it's still way too many. And to think that at basis of that, there are people willing to say it's against their executive order to even say you have to wear masks.
Right.
And to care so much about that you want to not pay the people to make those decisions.
Yeah. To me, the numbers, the rarity of it happening, to me, it doesn't even really matter, because like me, there is no number of kids that I want to see sick and die. I don't care if it's just only one. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's something that can be easily prevented, then why not? Now, one thing though is good though. I think parents, they still have the option to wear a mask if they want to. Schools just can't enforce it.
There can't be a mandate, but the
parents can still be like, hey, even though the school's not making you, I still would really, you wear a mask and stay, what is it, 3 feet now? They got to stay distance and stuff like that. Try to do everything you can. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze and stuff like that, and try not to touch everybody. That's going to be really hard at first. I can see where it's going to be where some kids are wearing masks, and they're going to look at other kids that are also not wearing masks, and they're going to be like, well, if he's not wearing a mask, why should I? But I can see a lot of peer pressure coming into play. But hopefully, if you like me, I'm making my son wear a mask, and it's just the way it's going to be. If the school system or the state system doesn't want to step in and keep our kids safe, then it's up to the parents to do it.
So interesting context also for Florida. So like you said, parents can choose to have their kids wear masks, but the district cannot mandate it, is what they're saying. Yeah. Also in that very same state, they are running out of hospital beds and ventilators. Federal government is sending 200 ventilators to Florida to help with the COVID surge. Yeah. Interesting combination of decisions, if you ask me.
Yes.
What do you do?
It's just like they're missing the big picture. They really are. They're missing the fact that we don't want to see anyone die. Yes, we get it. The statistics are rare, but are so low. But at the same time, if one death can be easily prevented, then we want to do everything in our power to prevent it.
Yeah.
Because imagine being the parent of the one kid that does, and how that would feel. And then be like, well, why did you wear a mask? And they'll be like, well, statistically, it wasn't supposed to happen. But
and it's not a tremendous sacrifice to ask.
Yeah.
If it was a tremendous thing to ask, I could see more of the side of it. Like, you're really asking a sacrifice. But this does not seem like a huge sacrifice to ask. It really does not.
It really
does not.
It really isn't. And like we said in the last time, it's not even the kids, it's the parents that are it's just like the parents' agenda that they're using their kids, like, oh, my kids won't wear a mask and blah blah blah. Like, you don't really know that.
It's the parents. It's the parents.
You know what? Kids probably don't want to wear shoes, but guess what you make them do? You make them wear shoes.
Yeah. In other COVID news, something that I'm, as a fan of business and private sector, there's some various talk about how big of an impact it can have with private businesses mandating masks. So there's a couple of things let's see, several businesses have mandated the vaccine, and some have not, and some have said they won't, but a lot of these large companies have a lot of employees and can make huge strides towards the overall population by mandating the vaccine.
100%, yes, I believe that.
Let's see, looking for highlights here.
I mean, what's cheaper, buying masks and make sure everyone's vaccinated versus paying for unemployed? Letting people paying people to stay at home and having to risk shutting down. Therefore, they're also losing more money. It makes all the sense in the world that they would mandate vaccination.
Well, and that's what I think is interesting with a lot of these, because I think it's one of the times. Sometimes a lot of companies make decisions based on the bottom dollar.
Yeah.
Sometimes they make decisions based on what's right to humans, but once in a while you feel like those things actually line up real nice.
Yeah.
where you can help people and save your company money, which it sounds like a win-win all the way around. So I think that's a big factor.
Because who owns a business right now actually wants another shutdown?
Yeah.
Nobody. No one who owns a business wants another shutdown. So if they can actually do something to help prevent a shutdown and also keep people safe too, because inadvertently that's what they're doing, then go for it. Like, why not? It just makes too much sense.
Yeah, it really does. So hopefully vaccines will get mandated by more private businesses, which you would think for people that are anti-government mandate and pro-businesses, it seems like that would be something that would be more okay with. I guess we'll find out if that's the case or not. A lot of people are kind of hypocritical when it comes to a lot of those things. Like, I'm really pro-freedom, people can do what they want to do, but then when another person does what they want to do, it bothers them.
Yes, I know. It is. Freedom is all great and stuff until it actually affects other people. Then it's a problem. So
yeah. Like, I want people to do what they want to do when the government is staying out of stuff, but if two dudes want to get married, that is not okay. The government should stop that.
Yes, it always
Two
seems...
dudes that are never going to meet, or anybody I ever know will ever meet
Yeah.
in my entire life.
Yeah, it's just funny how that works.
So taking a turn a little bit with businesses though, so the internet, everyone uses it, most everyone uses it, but there are debates on how much of a utility or an infrastructure it really is. Because there's a big infrastructure bill working its way around political stuff for these ridiculous amounts of like trillions of dollars, a $3.5 trillion infrastructure plan, absurd amounts of money. Right or wrong, absurd amounts of money. But there are interesting parallels to historical things. So this is saying about 1 in 4 like farms would have like houses, people live there, don't have any access to internet broadband capabilities, which in a day of remote learning and Zoom and all that seem like a interesting combination.
Yeah.
But it costs a significant amount of money to run these lines to new places where they might only have 1 or 2 people sign up versus a neighborhood of 100 houses.
Yeah.
So it's a big money expense. You look at the historical parallel, things like power lines. When that was a new thing, it was like, well, we're not going to run power to get to one house 100 miles from here.
Yeah.
We're just going to run it to a city. But then the government stepped in and paid for a whole lot of the expansion of things like of power, which most people agree is a true utility.
Yes.
But where does the internet fall in as far as a utility, and how much of the government be involved in footing bills? Because to be fair to companies, it costs a lot of money to run these things miles and miles and miles with not a huge return on investment.
Yeah, that certainly is a interesting topic or something to debate, because like, granted, no one needs internet to survive. You can live every day without internet, no problem. But does it make life a lot more challenging? It surely does. And now you have companies and everything. A lot of banks and hospitals are switching over to an online only system. A lot of insurance companies are going like paperless. I mean, it's like you got to look up your policy. You have to pull up your policy on your phone to show to the police officer. They don't send, like ours, they don't even send us cards anymore.
It becomes more difficult all the time to not have access to that.
So you mean to tell me, like, if I don't pay my phone bill, then I can't show a police officer proof of insurance that I do pay for? Like, it's like you need to pay for this to be able to access this. Internet is becoming the backbone of America. It really is, because it's like almost everything we do is relying on it, as far as like, you purchasing online, shipping everything. A lot of pharmacies are moving online and stuff like, and it's just so crazy that like that's the direction that we're going, and the people that don't have internet are kind of getting left behind. Yeah. But at the same time, you wonder, like, well, who doesn't have internet?
Well, that tends to be lower income areas. Yeah. So the argument can be made that while if you have a fancy, expensive neighborhood, of course, some broadband provider is going to run high-speed internet there. They're going to get a bunch of customers. If you have a low-income place, you're obviously going to get a much lower return on those kind of numbers. Yeah. And argument can be made that only makes it more easy for rich kids to do well, and harder, not impossible, but harder. Yeah. Just a barrier for a kid without a lot of money to do well with a lot of these things that are required in school. And I think that's that's something that broadband companies get accused of doing, and it's probably true, but as a business, it's one of those things where earlier, sometimes we mentioned doing the right thing and making money or saving money line up. Sometimes you have to choose. Yeah. And if you are a business, it's hard to say, oh, we're going to spend $5 million here to get like $500 a year versus to get $1 million a year. It's a different decision to be made. Yeah. It really is an interesting debate, because you can see both sides of it. You can really see both sides, and it's really hard to say who's right and who's wrong, because it's just really unfortunate. It's not fair, but at the same time, like, who's going to pay for that? Like, someone has to pay for that. It's not fair that somebody has to pay for internet to somebody that's living out in the middle of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, if a person is living out in the middle of nowhere and he wants internet, he's probably going to have to. Oh, and just keep in mind, a lot of the people that live out in those areas tend to
don't care about technology.
They might not care as much, yeah.
They don't really care about technology. They're happy about it. So, I just think that is just an interesting debate. I'm kind of curious to see where that goes.
And the argument can also be made that while it's a hard thing to do, you could live without electricity also if you wanted to.
Yeah,
only
that
because
is
people
true.
did it for many, many, many years.
That is very
for
true.
Most of human history.
That is very true. Yeah, we don't need we can completely live without it, but does it make life incredibly harder? You bet it does.
Yeah, if you've ever been camping,
Yeah,
it's a hassle to not have
it's
it.
just one of those things. That's one of the first bills you pay is the electric bill,
Keep the lights
and the
on.
water bill. So it's but I don't know. Yeah, I can see internet is becoming more and more important because almost everything our system is so reliant on it that if they were to just pull it out, like pull the rug, and say no internet for anybody, where would we be?
Yeah.
We would be lost. It would be hard to adapt to going back to without internet. Could we do it? Yes, but it would be. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to deal with that.
Let's see. Fourth on today's list, we have one of two Olympic stories. So the Olympics, which concluded just recently, had the lowest. NBC said they had the lowest ratings ever for the Summer Olympics since acquiring the broadcasting rights in 1988. An average of 15.5 million primetime viewers. Let's see, that's a 42% decrease from the 2016 Rio Games, which had 26 million viewers, and in 2012 London Games had 31 million primetime viewers. So a significant thing. I personally think it's not really matched much in here, but I think a big part of it is when it's the other half of the world, you get these updates, right? Like when they happen live, because they're like whole opposite time as us. So you get a 7 a.m. update of who won some particular gold medal.
Yeah.
Is it as much fun to watch it that night? No, it really isn't.
Yeah,
there are several things I had as a spoiler, like I didn't really want to watch anymore because like some CNN update came through.
Yeah.
Oh, so and so wins.
Right.
And then I didn't watch it.
When you already know the results before, like hours before, it shows on TV. Yeah, you're going to lose interest. Like I feel like there's nothing they could have done to avoid that, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I feel like there was just a lot of things too. Like one, there was already a negative cloud going into it. People were talking about whether or not they should even be having it. So there was already some negativity towards it. A lot of people didn't even think it should be going on. And then two, like I just felt like the coverage of it was kind of poor in a lot of areas.
You think
like
so?
the night, because you would watch it and because the whole point of watching the Olympics is to actually watch the games.
Yeah.
But they would cut the camera and go to a completely different sport like every 2 minutes. And then they'll pan back to the panel on TV and you would hear them talk. And I'm like, it's like, this is not what we want to watch. I'm sorry. I don't want to watch, these newscasters talk about the Olympics. I want to actually watch the Olympics.
Watch it itself.
So I felt like the coverage of it wasn't that great either. Like when I want to watch swimming, I want to watch the whole thing. I don't want to watch just only when Katie Ledecky swims, and then you go back to go at tennis or whatever. It was just too much jumping around, and then I just feel like you just kind of lose interest.
Well, I think touching on things like that, when you only have so many hours of primetime stuff and so many events, and the interest is only the broad mass interest is only drawn to a few of the very, very many events. I think, and you have these various superstars of any particular event that people want to see. So it's so much is on that, and I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Like Katie Ledecky, for example, or like some Simone Biles thing. Of course, that's what everybody wants to watch, and if you're not one of them, then you get a lot less attention. Right. Speaking of Katie Ledecky, the fifth thing here talking about Olympics owing money. It broke in the news of Front Office Sports that Katie Ledecky is going to owe about $44,000 in tax dollars for her 2 gold and silver medals. Now that needs some context. So the actual value of the medals themselves is tax exempt, but what is not tax exempt is the Olympic Committee pays medalists based on how many medals they win. About $37,000 for gold, $22,000 for silver, $15,000 for bronze. And now that amount of money is exempt also with federal taxes unless you make over $1 million a year. So for the super high vast majority of athletes, they don't have huge fat sponsorship deals of that magnitude. They're so for most people, even with those dollars in there, they're going to make less than $1 million. But if you're someone that is Katie Ledecky, for example, or someone with like a Michael Phelps of a previous year with huge sponsorship dollars, you do end up having to pay money on those gains, and the top federal tax bracket is about 37%. So things like that, when you already have, because it was saying that she would probably already make $1 million at least in various sponsorship deals. So then based off the money that comes from gold, then you end up paying that revenue, you end up paying the tax bill accordingly.
So it's essentially income tax for them almost.
It's income tax, but only with certain exemptions. Really, it's like a lot of other parts of the tax code where it hits people that make the most the hardest.
Yeah, that's just funny. It's funny. It's crazy. It's like, oh, here you are. Here's your gold medal that you worked so hard to win. Here it is. Here's your prize. You win it, and then like, oh, now you gotta pay. I don't know. It's just a funny concept because you think that these medals are just handed to them, and then it's like they won it. Like they don't need to do anything else. They already competed and they won a race or won whatever, and they get it. But then the backside of it is they have to actually turn around and pay for that. So it's like, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm sure they don't regret winning it. I'm sure they're happy they won and everything, and I'm sure that they wouldn't take it back. I just think it's just funny that, like me, I didn't even know that.
But and the only ones that end up having to pay, because like, so say you're the kind of person that is super awesome and you win say 5 gold medals, you're pushing $200,000 in money from the Olympic Committee for that, a nice sum of money, but you would only have to pay taxes on that money if that pushes you over the $1 million income threshold for that, which for most of the Olympians is not anything that they do, but for a handful of the super high profile ones it is. So it's hard to feel incredibly sorry for people that get a tax bill that make over $1 million a year.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting point about that story. Different countries handle things in different ways for what kind of monetary money things people get for winning. So in Singapore, this one was interesting. In Singapore, if you get a first time win for a gold medal, so your first gold medal, they pay you approximately 740,000 US dollars or 1 million Singapore dollars. So if you are Singapore and the first person to your first time you win a gold medal, that's a pretty serious payday.
Yeah.
Singapore. Small Asian countries, they got their own rules, don't they? All right, so going back over the 5, today we got COVID in schools, mask bonanza stuff, vaccines, how much businesses should be involved in vaccines, how much is the internet a utility compared to something like power or water, the lowest Olympics ratings ever, and some Olympians, a handful of the top earners, owing significant amounts of money in taxes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Ben has joined me again. Thank you, Ben. Have a great day.
Later.